How to explain subject to a motivated seller. Guys, it's Rick Ginn. Today I'm going to walk you through how to do the explanation on this because there's always a lot of confusion on it. And I want to walk you through my experience on it. Now, before I do that, I got to walk you through 4 simple steps to set up the explanation of subject to, because if you do it, it'll make your explanation so much clearer, and it is about the flow of the conversation. So remember, the first thing you do on any type of motivated seller, if it's subject to or just a traditional wholesale deal, is you have to locate the seller's pain. And normally before you meet with them, you have an idea. It could be a foreclosure, it could be a death of a family member, a probate, they could be behind on taxes, it could be a loss of job. But it's important that you locate this pain, and when you first talk to them, past introducing yourself, is let the seller tell you what's going on. Stop making assumptions, just be very careful and listen. This is critical in explaining how a subject to is going to work, because you have to make sure you have all the information. And what person or seller doesn't want to be heard? And if we make assumptions, we're not going to be able to solve their problem. Remember, your job is to get the information, the intel, and the best person to get it from is the seller, and let them explain it in their own words. This is often where they'll become emotional and tell you their frustrations, where they're at in that process, and you have to understand that. Step 2 is actually walk the seller through all the options they've done up to this point to try to get their house sold. And I'm going to warn you, it's usually a mess, but you have to find out what they've already tried, because it makes your subject to presentation much simpler and clearer, because you're going to be all over the board if you don't know what they've already tried. What do I mean by this? Obviously, they probably spoke to a realtor, they probably looked at listing it, and what did the realtor tell them? You're going to have to come to the closing table to pay money for my cost. And a lot of these people, let's face it, they're reaching out to us because they have very little equity. Maybe they put down a small percentage of a down payment. Maybe they had a VA loan or something like that. And that's why they're in this situation. Something has changed. So they'll walk you through the realtor. Maybe they'll walk you through the title company. They told you, I got the realtor cost. I have all these closing costs from a title company. I've even met with an attorney. He wants $5,000 to help me protect against a foreclosure. And honestly, then they're going to go to, usually the last one is, I've tried a FSBO and I just can't deal with it. It's just too much. So all those different options, if you get them up front, and they'll tell you what they've tried, because honestly, that is the biggest part of explaining a subject to. I want to know that they've tried everything. Don't try to hide it, get it out up in front, because honestly, your job is to present a solution. So find out what's failed. This has failed, the realtor failed, the title company, the lawyer, the FSBO failed. Okay, I got it. They're getting frustrated. They're looking for a solution, and we have to do it. Step 3 is I simply ask the seller, after all this emotional pain, Mr. Seller, in the perfect world, what would you like to see happen with this house? Like, if I could snap my fingers today and make this happen, what is it that you want? And honestly, right there is the cure for the problem. Because if you don't do that, you don't find out what the seller truly wants, you're going to be guessing the entire time. And a lot of them will go simply, honestly, I just like to get this house off my hands. I want to start my life over. I don't want to be in financial ruins. I don't want the house to go in foreclosure. I just want a fresh start. Regardless how they got there, if it's a divorce, a bad relationship, a loss of job, and people want clarity. They want certainty. But it's important you get that information from your seller, not from you. I've been doing this 23 years, and I've learned making assumptions is a huge mistake when it comes to wholesaling, and especially creative financing. You guys know I do both, but when it comes to this, you have to understand. Step number 4, after I've done the first 3 steps, is the reality is you should be the only solution for it. That's how subject to works. You don't ever force someone to take a creative financing deal. That is the fastest way to fail. But if I do step 1, I find their pain. I go through step 2, I walk them through everything they've done. And then I ask them for their perfect scenario. Like in your dream, How would this go down and get it done? It just leads a step for you making your offer subject to. So here's where the rubber hits the pavement. If you don't do all four of those steps up front, you're going to be all over the board. And I constantly compare you to like an order taker at McDonald's. You have to frame these conversations. And honestly, when it comes to creative financing, particularly subject to, you should be the only solution to save that seller. That's the only way it works. They have to exhaust all other options. Otherwise, your offer is just going to be, they're not going to see the value in it. They see the value in it with the realtor wants money. The title company wants money for closing costs. The FSBO, they can't sell it because they don't know how to do it. The lawyer wants $5,000 up front. Everybody wants money from them. And then they go to you and then, hey, listen, Rick, if you could just figure this out and take this off my hand, that's my dream scenario. I just want certainty in my life. I want to move on. And that's your cue where you go into your subject to presentation. Now, I want you to think like this is a funnel. You got to keep walking them down. You can never force them through this funnel. You actually have to be a good listener, go through the 4 steps, and now we are going to explain how creative financing, particularly in subject to, works. Now, subject to is simply taking over the mortgage. And I simply walked through, I said, listen, are you open to a creative solution? And all I am is testing the water. Some people have such a preconceived notion about subject to and creative financing. And if their parents have shoved it down their mouth, it's terrible. These investors are going to take advantage of you. Don't try to force them to do it. If they have a very negative connotation about it, they just need more time. You can't force them. A lot of you guys try to force wholesaling decisions, and you know how I feel about that. Creative financing, it's even more apparent that you have to let the conversation flow, that you are the best fit for it, and that's what you want to do. Now, what I explain to them is usually when they say, hey, are you open to a creative solution to this? They're typically going to respond, I don't understand, how would that work? And they're typically going to go like this, all these other people want money. I don't want to pull $30,000 out of my pocket to get my house sold. What is it you're offering? And I go, listen, you have to understand this. You have your house. The reality is the value of your house right now, there's just no money in it. In fact, I don't even really want the real estate. The only thing that's going to cure this is time and your financing in place. And if I give it a lot of time, I give the house a lot of love, and I manage it, I might be able to make a profit down the road with it. But the money is in the financing. It's not in the house. We both agree to that. They go, yeah, I understand that. And they're typically going to go this, how would this work for me? And so once I get past that test stage, now I'm down to breaking down how the subject to, and it simply goes, here's what we do. I basically just take over your payments. And that's where you should already know the numbers ahead of time, whatever, 1,500, 2,000. And then by me taking over the payments, you avoid the foreclosure. You get exactly what you want. And honestly, the biggest part of it is you don't have to write a check to sell your property. In fact, you get to walk away and get on with your life. Every other solution you've talked to me, the realtor, the lawyer, the title company, the FSBO, everybody wants you to write a check. I don't want to do any of that. I just want you to be able to walk away. I take over your financing, your credit gets saved, and honestly, I believe it's the best solution for you. Now, they're typically going to go, hey, well, what is the risk here? Because it sounds like it's just upside. I'm taking a tremendous risk on you, and I have to give it time. Remember, I'm going to have to paint. I got to clean the house up. And I already told you I would make back up your 3 payments. What do those 3 payments add up? He goes, that's around $6,800. Plus the late fees is about $7,200. You don't want to write a check for $7,200. No, I don't have it. Exactly. This is what I'm offering by doing the subject to. They're like, well, here's what they always say. And it is a valid concern and a risk on the seller. Rick, what happens if you don't make my mortgage payment? You get protected with what we call a collateral interest. And what does that mean? It's a lever. If I don't make your mortgage payments, it triggers a change in deed. It's called a performance deed. And it's really that simple. Now, I don't create the deed. We have a lawyer who creates it that works with the title company and basically says, if I don't make that payment, the property reverts back in your name. And keep in mind, if I'm going to make an investment, I'm going to make up 3 back payments, and I'm going to make an investment in the house. I'm going to paint it, clean it up, put in new appliances, maybe some new flooring. Why on earth, Mr. Seller, would I not make that payment? I have a vested interest in you. I have a vested interest in the property. And if I did not follow through on exactly what I'm going to tell you, I would lose a lot of money. And think about this. You get a house back with all the payments caught up, your credit saved, and a house that's ready to go. Now, a lot of times they go like this, well, why don't I just rent it? And I go, you have that ability. I never deny them. But like if you're this, the reality is if they're struggling with the payments now, tenants can be 10 times worse. Tenants skip payments, tenants do midnight move outs, tenants do damage to properties. And what happens if a tenant does not pay their rent? Can you cover the mortgage for 2, 3, maybe even up to 6 months? No, I don't want to get in that nightmare scenario. Once again, as I said, this solution subject to covers most of your concerns. It makes up your back payments, saves you from foreclosure, saves your credit, and most importantly, Mr. Seller, it allows you to move on with your life. And I've already put the collateral in place to protect you if I don't do exactly what I says. Remember, we're in this together. I want to help you out, and I want to get you out of this situation. So I have experience in doing these, but remember, I need time and your financing for me to actually make this work. The house, the money's not there right now. And so the last question they usually are going to have with it is, how long are you going to take over the payment? Mr. Seller, I'm taking over the current obligations of your mortgage. Now, this is where some negotiations come in. And some people say, I just want to do it for a year or two. That's not truly a subject to, in my opinion. If you have 15 years left on the mortgage, I want to take over 15 years. The longer the payment, the more options you have, and the easier it is to make money. Now, if they go, what if 5 years down the road, I want to buy a house, Rick? I go, it's simple. I'll provide you a lease. The property that I own under the deed is an income producing property. Yes, the mortgage is in your name, and we can offset that with the income, and you should be able to qualify for your new mortgage. You're going to have to give it some time because I need time to repair your credit. And in the end, here's always my recommendation. I never do less than 5 years, 60 months. Why? Time goes by quick. I see investors all the time doing these short-term subject twos, and when it comes due, if you don't have the ability to cash out that mortgage, you're going to put yourself in an awkward position, and you might actually lose the property because you recorded a deed, a performance deed, saying you were going to do exactly cash it out in X amount of months. And if you don't do it, you don't take that risk. So tell the truth up front. And honestly, in the end, you can never force someone to do a creative financing deal. You should be the only solution because every option they've tried has failed terribly and they all want money. And you're the savior coming in. You offer a solution to save their credit, make up their back payments, and let them get on with their life without writing a huge check and get certainty so they can move forward and start their new life. This is why subject to is so attractive, and this is why people love doing this. But remember, it's so important you go through those first 4 steps before you explain it, because without it, you're going to be all over the board. Why? I've been through hundreds of these, and I'm here to tell you, I'm not the only person that does this, but you have to be a good listener, and you have to be the only solution for them, and you have to convey trust and confidence. How do you do that? You tell them the truth, you become a good listener, and you solve their problem. Guys, if you can do that, it's easy to explain what's in it for the seller, and I always tell them what's in it for me. I need time, I take over your financing and I make money, I protect you with the collateral deed, the performance deed, and we both hold hands together and we solve the problem. And I simply give them the time they need. It's not like one of these things where you shove the papers in there. You need 110% compliance. If they have a single doubt of reservation, give them the time. And at the end, I always ask them, do you have any questions for me? And then if you have any follow-up questions, you do it like that. And guys, it is simple as that. If you understand how to do that, you can simply explain creative financing, particularly subject to. Remember, I emphasized how to explain it to a motivated seller. And once again, you have to be the final option. And if they believe in you and they're confident in your ability and you're authentic and you show you truly want to help, then it's a no-brainer. But remember, you have to have their cooperation. And if there's the slightest inkling of doubt, answer their questions and give them time. Because a forced subject to deal is a fastest path to disaster, and I don't want that. So remember, walk them through the 4 steps, explain subject to how I walked you through that, and do it in your own words, be authentic, and let them know what's in it for you, what's in it for them, what are the risks, what are the benefits, and ask them if they want to solve this problem. And if you give them enough time to do it, some will do it right there, some will wait a week, some will wait a month, some will wait 6 months. In the end, you should be the only solution. And if you're only the solution, that's how a great subject to goes. So guys, use this explanation. It's the easiest way to explain subject to. Make sure you frame it and set the questions up beforehand. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments. And guys, I appreciate you. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to know on explaining subject tos. And remember, wholesaling is your main business. When a subject to and you're the only solution for it, now you have the steps to walk them through it. And I appreciate you guys. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. This is Rick Ginn. I'll see you guys in the next video. So I got to do a little edit between 8 and 10 minutes. It's my fault. Did you hear